Hey everybody, I'm Scott Weichel. You're listening to My Kind of Country on MKOCRadio.com. My guest tonight is a number one Billboard singles winner, and she has won the top female vocalist of the award in 1985 from the Academy of Country Music. She is a singer, songwriter, producer, vocal instructor. She has done it all, and I think music is definitely in her bones. And it's a pleasure to have her on the show tonight. Please welcome Judy Rodman. Judy, how are you tonight?
I'm great. So good to be here with you, Scott. Thanks.
Well, fantastic. Nice to have you. You've had a stellar career, not only in front of the microphone, but behind the scenes, and you've done just about everything in music.
Yeah, rabbit trails are us, for sure.
That's for sure. Well, give me a little bit of your background as far as how you got into the whole music business.
Well, actually, I never wasn't, I guess. My father, at least in an amateur way, my father taught me how to sing harmony when I was 2. He was kind of an amateur musician in Mississippi. He was air traffic controller, but we always played and sang and music the whole time we were growing up, no matter where we lived, which was all over the place. And so I learned, harmony really early. Every time somebody else was born in our family, I got put on another part. So I kind of grew up knowing how to do that. And I, took piano, started when I was 6, and then I didn't know exactly what I would go into it for a business, but I ended up definitely doing it. And all along the way, I've learned so many things, and I've found that everything I've learned has come in handy in a way that I never expected it to, in something else. So I did my first professional singing when I was 16 years old for this jingle called Gino's Pizza Logs, and that was in Jacksonville. And that started me in the studio, and so I've been doing it ever since.
Well, you've done a lot of jingles over the years. I read it was like 1,000 different ones you've been on over the years.
There's no telling how many. I did jingles in Memphis in this company called the Tanner Company from 8:30 in the morning until 3:30 in the afternoon, 5 days a week, and sometimes 6. And we did jingles, and we did radio ID packages and voiceover stuff. So there's no telling. And then when we moved to Nashville, I did bunches of national spots in Nashville. So kept on doing jingles, but always, was also doing background vocals for different kinds of records. In Memphis, it tended to be R&B or gospel R&B. And then, kept on doing it behind all the country people that were recording in the 80s. And then, it just progressed from there.
Yeah, I was reading you've performed behind a lot of great stars: Johnny Cash, Tammy Wynette, Ray Charles.
Right.
You were also on one of my favorite Merle Haggard albums, "That's the Way Love Goes," and "Going Where the Lonely Go" too.
Yeah, it was really amazing that time. How many people were in Nashville were using background vocals. I mean, everybody did, and I was with. I kind of had found a spot as a substitute. So I got really regular when I moved from Memphis to Nashville with the Leah Jane Singers, with the Herschel Wigginton's Nashville edition that was on Hee Haw. And even when the Jordanaires used Girls, I was called to do that. So I got in on a lot of those iconic old records, and I love having had that experience. Those were the days of when Nashville had a lot of simul sessions, we call them, because people were playing and singing backgrounds and singing lead all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I would be in the studio when Johnny Cash was singing the lead and all the instruments were playing the track, and that's just the way things were done.
Wow.
So I'm so glad I got to be part of that.
I think a lot of the artists are kind of going back to that again. I've talked to a lot of different ones that are recording that way in the studio. They prefer it that way and have everyone
vinyl, and vinyl's having a big comeback too.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I interviewed sometime back. I interviewed Joe Babcock from the Nashville edition. He's got a great album out, and what a cool guy he is, and a great story he had to tell for sure. So that reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Very impressive resume. JudyRodman.com is Judy's website, by the way. I encourage you to go and just read about her stellar career. I mean, there's just so many great things on there to read about and things that she's done and is doing in the music business. So, MTM Records, you were the first artist to sign to the label. Is that correct?
Right, right. I happened to be doing some background vocals for Ed Bruce, and he was being produced at the time by by the guy that would become my producer, Tommy West. Tommy had produced Jim Croce, and Jim had died, and he was looking for something to kind of take that place that would be creative for him and all that. So I was singing backgrounds, and I just happened to play, because I knew he was into songwriters, I happened to play a couple of songs I'd written in Memphis for him, just for fun. And he decided he liked them. So he got with Howard Stark used to be with ABC Records in New York, and Alan Bernard, Howard Stark from New York and Alan Bernard from L.A. Alan used to manage Andy Williams and different people, and they started MTM Records under the auspices of the, MTM Entertainment out in L.A. And it was a heady time.
Now, was that label connected with Mary Tyler Moore?
Yeah, it was. It was a subsidiary of Mary Tyler Moore. And the only reason it doesn't exist anymore is because the MTM Enterprises as a whole got sold to BMG, and BMG didn't want a record label. So, poof, we're gone.
Yeah, there was a lot of great music and a lot of great artists on that label at that time. I know that Girls Next Door was on there, Marty Haggard was on there, a lot of great names and great albums.
Oh yeah, Radney Foster,
yeah,
and Holly Dunn, and the Skylar Noblock and Overstreet. Oh yeah, there were some really good, wonderful people at that label at that time. It was really something to be part of that as well.
Absolutely. Well, for the short time the label was around, you certainly cranked out some great hits. I know your first single was "I've Been Had by Love Before," and that was a top 40 song for you. And "You're Gonna Miss Me When I'm Gone," also top 40. And then the big song came a little bit after that. "She Thinks That She'll Marry."
Mm-hmm. And Until I Met You was before that, I think, which was my number one. And then "She Thinks She'll Marry" was top 10 as well.
Yeah, I always remember that song, and we always get a lot of requests, still get a lot of requests for that song. And
great.
You won the Academy of Country Music New Female Vocalist of the Year.
Right. Yeah. I beat out Trisha. No, not Trisha. I'm sorry, Patty Loveless.
Oh yeah.
At the time, and Patty, of course, went on to a much longer career. But it was when Randy Travis was first coming up. So, and Garth Brooks was around the corner, and all that. It was just at the beginning, I think, of a new era in the country music industry, where it wasn't the same old people every time that would be having the hit records. And but boy, the times changed.
Yeah, they certainly did. But I think the times have kind of swung back to that again. We have so many great independent artists out there now.
Yeah, and the truth is, roots music, which is R&B, country, Celtic, the roots music will never die. And it'll always resurface, and it'll always feel new, because it's like, oh my gosh, they're getting back to what the heart craves, instead of which is that organic kind of thing. And it's always got the organic music, I think, that really moves the heart, instead of just makes the elevator go up and down, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The roots music is what moves the heart, and so it's always going to be a part, and people are going to rediscover it. I've got students now, 2 of them I think are going to be next big things, and they are amazing new old country kind of artists.
That's
one
wonderful.
of them's name is Jenny Tolman, and the other one is Preston James. So your audience can kind of keep their ears peeled for those 2.
Yeah, I've heard Preston. She's fabulous. In fact, I had a listener send me one of her videos on YouTube.
You mean Jenny?
Yeah.
You mean Jenny?
Jenny, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just fabulous, absolutely great. So
yeah.
Wonderful. I'm glad you're working with some great talent. That's fabulous.
Yes.
So after your second album came out, and you did a fantastic version of a Bob Dylan song on that, I remember.
I did. He actually sent it to me.
Really?
He sent five songs he decided he liked. I've been had by love before, which was a song written by Tom Dampier, and he liked it. And so he sent me some songs, and we Tommy and I picked that one. I'll Be Your Baby Tonight, and I had another top 10 for him. So I felt like I paid him back.
That's incredible. And Girls Ride Horses too. That one was out at that
Oh
same
yeah,
time. I like that
Mark
one too.
Sanders and Alice Randall.
And you have written a lot of great songs too, including Leanne Rimes' number one, One Way Ticket, and just a bunch of other
That's
great
right.
songs.
Yeah, and that's a funny story. I actually wrote that for myself. I was trying to get back on another label. And the publishing company, Warner Chappell, kind of pitched it to this unknown 13-year-old. And it turned out to be, the biggest thing that could happen to the record, to that song. So I'm very, very thrilled that they did that.
Huge.
And but it was one of the turning points in my career where I had a number one as a songwriter, but not as an artist.
Wow. Of all the artists that you worked with over the years, so what are some things that really stand out in your mind? I know you mentioned working with Johnny Cash, and what are some things that kind of stand out for you that was kind of like an aha moment, maybe?
Well, one thing I would say is Willie Nelson. And the reason is it wasn't just me, but he was always good to the people that worked with him and that opened for him. And he just was really kind about, like, he wanted me to come out and do his encore with him and talk to me backstage. And, I hung out with him and wanted me to hang out with him in his bus, with clouds of smoke and everything. But he just was, he's the real deal. I think he's one of those people that if you met him in his real life, knowing him in his public life, that they would go together. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. And so I'm kind of in awe of people that have that kind of integrity.
Absolutely. Years ago I saw, this was back in the 90s, Willie had an album that had come out, and it was on an independent label called Justice Records.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for a music chain at that time, and I had a copy of the CD. I don't even think it was out yet. And after the show, he would go along the edge of the stage signing autographs, and so I took the CD up there and I handed it up to him, and he signed it, and he handed it back to me, and it was kind of sprinkling a little bit, so I had a plastic sleeve I was putting it in. I really wasn't looking, and I happened to glance back up, and he was standing there with his hand out, looking directly at me, waiting to shake my hand. And I thought,
oh man,
for him to take just that moment with all those people
right.
crowding in there, I thought that was the measure of the man,
Yeah, and I think that there's another huge artist these days who has kind of taken that sort of approach too. Pardon me, a little bit of Nashville allergy, and that is Taylor Swift. She's all whether you like her music or not, she is who she is because of the way she interacts with the public, and she just gives them as much as they can get of her. That's kind of her modus operandi, and it has been from the very beginning. So she can't, hug as many people now because of where she is in the stratosphere, but she, that's the way she got where she is.
Well, that's good to hear. And there's a lot of artists out there that are like that, and have always been like that, and that gives them the staying power.
Right.
And fans never forget that. Country music fans especially are very loyal, and once you've got fans like that, they're with you for life.
Yeah. It's always blown my mind if you're not like that. How hard is it to be kind to people who are asking for your autograph? I mean, really? So, yeah, I think but it goes along with, when you get some fame and you get people clapping for you and all that kind of stuff, it's either going to bring out the best in you or the worst in you. And so I'm really happy to see a lot of artists that I know actually that are really good people too. Willie stands out in my mind.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So the next chapter in your life, again, behind the scenes and working with developing artists and working with vocal coaching, you've got a vocal technique that you've developed called Power, Path, and Performance. Tell me a little bit
Yes.
about that.
When it's funny how God works. When He kind of closes doors until you finally go through the chute you're supposed to.
Yeah.
The way I think of it. And so I got channeled into vocal coaching because Carol Chase, who is she was an artist at one time too, and she was a big writer, and she was a friend of mine that we wrote together, and we sang a lot of backgrounds together. And she got on tour with Leonard Skinner and had a little trouble hitting one note. And she came to me. She knew me from me leading groups that she'd been part of through the years, and somehow she knew I could help her. And that is what made me think about vocal coaching. I thought, if I can help her, I don't know, maybe I can do that. So I tried it, and I found out that I had this innate ability to know what was not quite right and how to fix it. And so I got hungry for knowledge about why. And I did a lot of experimenting on myself and other people and found what works for everybody. And what I discovered is that I didn't approach my vocal coaching from academia. I had 1 year of voice in college. I've just been a singer my whole life since I was 2. So I came about it just experientially. But that said, I continue to learn from all kinds of sources more about why things work and how I can more effectively help somebody, get things working. But what I came upon was this 3-stranded cord of everything I know about the voice that matters to me or my students or anybody. I can fit within one of these 3 areas, and that is breath, which most people don't have a clue about it. Breath control. Even that have been trained for, a decade, they don't know how to control their breath optimally. And then 2 is the open throat. If the throat is tight, the tone is going to be limited or harsh or weak or just not as resonant as it could be. And then the 3rd area is performance. And by that, I mean actually communicating. Instead of just performing a song like you're on The Voice, trying to do Survivor of the vocal cords and hit as many licks as high as you can. I'm talking about the physical and psychological aspects of communicating to people. And those 3 things, breath, open throat, and actually what the voice is for, which is to communicate, those 3 things are synergistic. And so I love this method because I can within 5 minutes or 30 seconds sometimes, I can diagnose the worst part of a person's technique and use one of those 3 areas to tweak that, and then they feel the difference immediately. And so then we just go about figuring out how to train that into muscle memory. So I love the people that I work with are people who mostly are recording artists or people who want to be recording artists because or speakers. I work with reporters and with business people and teachers and professors and ministers. But the voice in general, as the professional voice, the voice that has to do what it does for its career. So I love it because it matters.
Well put. Absolutely. For artists that are looking to get some information from you, what is the best way to get in touch with you, Judy?
Go to my website that you kindly mentioned, which is judyrodman.com. But the other thing they can do is look up www.allthingsvocal.com. That's my blog, and I have a corresponding podcast, All Things Vocal, and they can get a heck of a lot of free vocal training from that.
Wow, that's great. And you also have CDs available, and I know you have some podcasts on your website, and so people can get...
I have lots of on my podcast on my website, but I have products, besides the personal lessons, products that I sell as well. I also have that one CD. I finally did do another project. I don't know if you know about it, but it was in 2015. My husband and I decided to write a new project after all these years. And that was such a wonderful time for us because as long as he and I both have been in the music business, we had never done that together. So I got to create another little pile of art and have that for sale too at johnandjudyrodman.com.
Well, that's fabulous. I'll have to get a copy of that and play some of the songs.
You will. I should send it to you.
Yeah, that would be great. I wasn't aware of that. That's fabulous.
One of the songs, I just got word that one of the songs is up for inclusion in an Amazon series that I can't mention right now, but we're keeping our fingers crossed. So, just when you think it's over, it's not.
Well, that's wonderful. Tell me a little bit about your husband and his career.
My husband's a professional drummer. He retired now, but he started out as a classical percussionist in Memphis.
Oh, wow.
And then he actually played drums for Tanya Tucker for a while. Before we moved to Nashville, some of the players that he knew in Memphis were playing with her on the road. So, but then he's a session. He did all the jingles in Memphis that I did, and so he's just a very intelligent player, and done every kind of music there is that you can think of, more than I have actually. But he retired because he's gotten some shoulder problems and stuff like that. But we got to do that last project together, so I'm so happy we did.
Oh, that's great. It's always a fantastic thing when you and your spouse can share a common bond of music, I think.
Yeah, and we got married in I sound like Johnny Cash. We got married in 1975, and so we have, seen the music business, he was on the road with me when we did Austin City Limits and Tonight Show and all that kind of stuff. So we've both been through it all together, and to actually come up with that last project was just very special for us, and we feel really good about it.
Oh, that's incredible. You mentioned Austin City Limits, and that is a long-standing tradition, not only for country music but so many other genres. What a great show that is. I've always been curious. When you did that show, did they actually tape that whole entire thing live, right, just like it is, or do you do it in segments?
They sure did.
Really?
They taped the whole thing live in front of the live audience, for sure. Yep.
Wow.
In fact, I'm not sure they didn't. I had an encore. That I did, and I'm not sure they showed this, but towards the end of the concert that I gave, I was barefoot because I love to take my shoes off. So I was barefooted, and the floor was wooden, and I got a huge splinter in my foot, and I had to finish the concert with a big splinter in my foot and pretend it wasn't there. So if they see me jumping around, it might be that.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. Yeah, I know, and I hated when they started editing down the concerts into like half-hour segments. I liked it when they did a full hour, because you got more of the show.
Yeah. It was really wonderful, and mine aired by the side of another up-and-coming new guy, Lyle Lovett.
Oh yeah. Yep, we've heard of him.
Yeah, right. It was pretty cool.
Well, I want to ask you about. I've always been a believer that a person has to have some natural talent, a natural ability to be an artist and be a performer, and has to have a passion for the music. And in this technology that we have nowadays with auto-tune and everything, what is your stance on that sort of thing?
The thing is, I've worked with people that were really considered beginner singers, but yet they've been like this one guy is a pop guy, Matt Carney, and he was a rapper. He was a Christian rapper. He really had incredible lyrics in Christian rap, of all things, and really intelligent, really just incredible stuff. And he was a great guy. But he came into me because he wanted to start singing, and he could sing the melody, but he had no idea about technique, and he didn't even know he had a head voice. Well, bottom line, after about 4 years of working with him, I think it was, he got. I think he had a #1 record. He had the fastest added record in the history of Christian hit radio, undeniable. And he had a double deal in Christian and pop. And he came from zero. Now, he's really smart. He was a really good musician, not all that good a piano player, but he was a songwriter. So he did have that going for him. But what I'm saying is, unless you're tone deaf, which very, very rarely are people. I may have had maybe 2 people in all of the people I've ever taught that were truly tone deaf. But unless you're tone deaf you have no sense of rhythm at all, and I've even taught people that have gained a sense of rhythm. But you almost always can learn if you want to, because sometimes people that work at it harder are better than people with the natural talent for it, who can be lazy.
Yeah.
Which is better to be both. But to be naturally talented and actually want to be as good as you possibly can be.
Yeah.
So and I would say one of those people that are my students is Casey Musgraves.
Oh yeah. She's got a fabulous voice. So are you I guess what I'm trying to ask is about the auto-tune thing. Sometimes to me being too perfect is something that you don't want to always hear. I like to hear.
That's right. It's emotionally numbing to be too perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I always tell. In fact, I've got one of my products is called Singing in the Studio, and I just published on Amazon the book. It's an ebook and paperback to Singing in the Studio, and what I say in that, it's all about how to do that. In everything you ever wanted to know about studio singing, but were afraid to ask. But so that you don't have to be auto-tuned except the slightest bit, just to approach the norms that people are hearing, but not overdo it. We can edit rhythm, we can edit tuning, and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to leave it human, you want to be able to, and if you're not good enough, they're going to have to edit you too much, and you're going to end up sounding like a mechanical record, or EDM music, electronic music. Yeah. So, the better you can be, the less editing is involved.
Yeah, that's a good.
And the more powerful your record will end up.
Absolutely, that's a good way to put it. And there's a big world of difference between recording in a studio and live performing. It's
there is, truly is
different world. I was a singer musician for 25 years. I had a band. I've recorded, and it's a big difference even in the musicians that you use. You're not always going to use the same people because they're not acclimated for both.
Right, and a lot of people have trouble if they do a lot of live work, they have trouble in the studio, or if they do a lot of studio work, they have trouble live. Part of that is because of the way the mic figures in your breath control. So it's like for my guitar players, I end up giving them a back scratcher for the studio, either a back scratcher or drumstick, and if they hold it between their palms, it feels like they've got the guitar in their hands, and they widen the bottom of their rib cage, and all of a sudden they've got this control available. So it's tricks like that. It's specialty stuff, and I've done studio work for over 50 years now.
Wow, that's incredible. It was always a chore for not necessarily a chore, but a challenge for me recording in a studio because I was used to doing live music, and when you're singing live, you learn how to work a microphone. You know how to back off. You know how to. Yeah, that drove the engineers nuts when you're trying to record.
And you know what? You work your mic. You don't even realize it, but you're usually working your rib cage. Not only are you working the mic, kind of, but you want to. If you're singing the best, you're self-compressing so that you're not. Your highs and lows volume-wise are not so wide, and then the live mic or the studio mic picks that up better. So you're not having to be over-compressed. So you're using your mic, and if you know how to use a mic, in a way that you don't have in the studio. And so that's where, if you put that stick in your hand, all of a sudden something feels better.
Yeah.
And you don't even know what it is. But it's really fun. So most of the studios I work in have seen the back scratcher.
Tricks of the trade. I love it.
Yeah, just one of many.
Well, I encourage my artists that are listening, please visit judyrodman.com. There's so much fascinating information. Even if you're not an artist, I just found it very interesting to read a lot of the things you have posted there, and it's just very
Well,
fascinating.
great.
Yeah, and
Great.
I hope everyone will check that out. And we're certainly going to play a bunch of your great music right now. And Judy, I want to thank you so much for taking time to be on My Kind of Country.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you for everything you do for all of us artists out there and the public listening to our records. Thank you.
All right. Here's some great music from Judy Rodman as we continue with My Kind of Country right here on MKOCRadio.com. Judy, thank you again.
You got it. Thank you.
There's a room in my father's house full of old heirlooms, Grandma's Bible and Grandpa's trunk, to a total stranger, no more than junk. The closest ties I ever knew until I met you. There's a barn on my father's farm, built with hardwood beams. You might have to stand the test of time. Cedar dowel pins in southern pine, the closest thing to strength I knew until I met you. Now the stars don't shine the same, and everything's in a state of change. Twilight I knew until I met you. There's a part of my father's heart that belongs to only one. He told me so a long time ago. You fall in love and then you know the closest thing to God I knew until I met you. Oh, now the stars don't shine the same. Everything's in a state of change. Twilight I knew until I met you. Until I met you. Until I met you. He keeps her in diamonds, he brightens her days, he flies her in style to the cities he plays. but she's not aware that in every town others warm to his favors when she's not around. He took her to Paris, he took her to Spain. He took her for granted but wouldn't give her his name. She lives all alone in a house on a hill and thinks that she'll marry, but she never will. He told her that someday he'd make her his own. They'd take a vacation together in Rome. She spoke these words though they tore her apart. I'm tired of you playing these games with my heart. Oh, I've given you the best years of my life. You've given me nothing but maybes and lies. I've lived all alone in a house on a hill, thinking we'd marry, but we never will. So time brought its wisdom, now clearly she sees. She's learned to be happy and she loves being free. But he longs to hold her and make her his wife, 'cause there was no happiness left in his life. She lives all alone in a house on a hill, with good friends and good times, her life is filled. In his lonely mansion, he longs for her still, and he thinks that she'll marry, but she never will.